Hello, my name is Kylie Roberson and this is my media clip project. For students who have learning disabilities, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are having disabilities in reading, math, and memory and motor skills. These students typically have average or above average intelligence. They also have difficulty with short and long-term memory. Socially, these students can have bouts of loneliness, acting out types of behavior, issues of self-confidence in certain situations, and misinterpret social cues. Academically, they may give up easily in areas of weakness to get out of work, frequently disrupt others when needing to do their own work, and schoolwork is inconsistent or generally poor. The following are techniques for universal design for learning and differentiated instruction. You should present information as a cognitive roadmap before students begin to learn it. Use embedded learning, which are opportunities that have key skills within instruction. Incorporate models, demonstrations, or role play. Use scaffolding for key concepts that students must learn. And finally, use learning strategies to give opportunities to learn strategies that impact knowledge acquisition and information storage. For students who have communication disorders, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are attention and concentration difficulties, memory issues, and their IQs vary. Socially, they may have avoidance issues such as appearing shy and reserved. They may not participate in large group settings. They are alone during social interactions and not asking friends to play or join their peers. Academically, students may avoid writing tasks, not asking friends or expects the teacher to intervene when having difficulty with others, and they may rely on the teacher to initiate interactions with others. For UDL and differentiated instruction, use multiple modifications on how content is presented as well as opinions for expression. Use various formats to present information such as audio, text, visual representation, and graphic organizers. Teachers should use facilitative language strategies. And finally, the use of graphic organizers and story webs. For students who have emotional or behavioral disorders, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are exhibiting characteristics from many different types of disorders. Students may be gifted but also have IQs in the low average range. They have significant challenges related to academic achievement. Socially, these students may have difficulty interacting with others by fighting with them. They are always on the defensive, and they can get very worked up. Academically, some students may have difficulty staying on tasks. They appear to have an inability to learn. They seem to be sad a lot of the time, and they do not speak or interact with others in the classroom setting. For UDL and differentiated instruction, make modifications to the curriculum and provide evidence of student knowledge through technology support. Use service learning skills to teach conflict resolution skills. Use multi-component interventions such as class-wide, peer-assisted, and the self-management approach. These types of students have one of the lowest rates of inclusion. For students that have ADHD, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are students typically have an internalizing or externalizing behavioral disorder, impairments in pragmatic language, challenges associated with behavioral, social, and emotional functioning. Their IQ is in the average range. Socially, they have impairments such as being sensitive around peers. They can get angry and moody, have difficulty regulating positive and negative emotions, and they withdraw from social situations. Academically, students have lower academic achievement, high retention rates, working memory challenges, inattention, and their motivation is inconsistent or lacking. For UDL and differentiated instruction, use classroom modifications, teach students organizational and goal setting skills, use learning to learn or self-regulation strategies, use multimodal treatments where medication and classroom behavior management are combined, use errorless learning to ensure that students acquire new skills without errors associated with trial and error learning. Finally, use video self-modeling to teach self-regulation and other skills. For students that have intellectual disabilities, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are significant limitations in intellectual functioning, have support needs in memory, generalization, and motivation, have an IQ of 70 or below, and it originates before 18 years of age. Socially, they have significant limitations in adaptive behavior, can be shy or reserved, can demonstrate potentially distracting behaviors such as loud laughter or non-appropriate behavior in social settings. Academically, these students have a lack of interest in academic activities along with boredom, demonstrate learned helplessness with new activities. For UDL and differentiated instruction, use technology such as e-readers to assist students in the classroom, help students master skills that are more applied or functional than just the content of the curriculum, use pre-linguistic manual teaching, and use the self-determining learning model of instruction, and community-based instruction. For students who have autism, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are students having restricted repetitive behaviors and interests, nonverbal communication with atypical language development, unusual, excessive, or limited reaction to sensory input. Intelligence can range from those who are gifted to those who have an intellectual disability. Socially, they are deficient in social emotional reciprocity, have difficulty maintaining relationships, usually isolate themselves in social situations, have difficulty understanding metaphors, conflicting emotions, and social blunders. Academically, some students may have repetitious movements during class activities when they are not interested, may learn very slowly and need extra help to learn simple concepts. If there are activities with noise, the student may become distracted. For UDL and differentiated instruction, utilize mnemonic strategies, which are effective curriculum adaptations and augmentations that enable students to succeed. Some of the strategies are keyword, peg word, and letter. Social stories teach young children social interaction skills. And finally, use positive behavioral support, including school-wide, group, and individual strategies to decrease problem behavior and improve opportunities for learning. For students who have traumatic brain injury, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are problems associated with memory and the executive functions of planning, problem solving, and abstract reasoning. These factors are dependent on the extent of the injury and age the injury occurred. Total or partial functional disability or psychosocial impairment or both. Socially, students may have forgotten social skills and experiences, they have trouble coping, can experience meltdowns, have difficulties with building close friendships, and solving social problems and recognizing emotions. Academically, they can experience frustration when asked to do tasks needing extra time to process. These students have difficulty inhibiting, stopping, or redirecting their ongoing actions, difficulty paying attention in class, learning new information that can be difficult or much longer to process. For UDL and differentiated instruction, teachers must modify how they present information, such as instructional pacing and prompting, have frequent student responses, adequate processing time, monitoring responses, and frequent feedback, use collaborative teaming, use cooperative learning, use technological devices to assist with tasks, and keeps tasks and schedules accounted for to assist these students. For students who have hearing loss, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are being impaired in processing linguistic information, impaired development of spoken language, need for hearing devices to process information, and the IQ range of these students is much like that of the general population. Socially, students may miss small nuances in large areas. They need to develop an awareness of social cues, may feel like an outsider and develop loneliness. Academically, they have relatively low academic achievement, need opportunities for communication, may miss parts of instruction and appear not to understand, and can appear bored or inattentive due to lack of hearing what was said. For UDL and differentiated instruction, have an educational interpreter to teach students how to use their remaining hearing, use a bilingual, bicultural model, have collaboration between teachers, paras, and speech pathologists to develop curriculum, facilitate language strategies, and finally use graphic organizers and various modifications. For students who have visual impairments, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are students having multiple disabilities, issues with motor and language skills, developing reactions and processing information. Their IQs vary. Some are gifted or have low intelligence. Socially, students have different interactions because they cannot share common experiences with sighted friends. Lack of social interaction can have an impact on self-esteem. They must have appropriate instruction and supports to develop skills. Academically, students must be directed, exposed, and taught much of what they need to know. Requires aids and services in the classroom. May complete assignments more slowly than their peers. Seem bored or uninterested in class demonstrations from lack of sight. For UDL and differentiated instruction, teachers may need to provide additional experiences to make up for the student's lack of incidental learning. The teacher will also have ongoing instruction for important skills of daily living. Teachers should use expanded core curriculum to help teach, improve, and assist students. And finally, use specialized instruction such as reading and writing in Braille and using an abacus for math. For students who are gifted and talented, the cognitive and intellectual characteristics are having superior functioning related to memory, concentration, abstraction, generalization, and reasoning. They experience low levels of anxiety and depression. Students have an above average intelligence. Socially, students show positive social emotional adjustment, provide optimism, and are sensitive to the concerns of others. Academically, students can be obsessive in one area of interest or subject. Perfectionism is shown in many aspects. They ask numerous questions because they feel a need to be challenged, and they are usually bored in class, refusing to do homework. For UDL and differentiated instruction, utilize the school-wise enrichment model reading framework. Use accelerated programs to get students where they need to be as far as knowledge and intelligence. Teachers can also implement curriculum extensions to provide more learning opportunities. Use cognitive taxonomies to design lessons from the less to the more complex. And finally, teachers should use instructional technologies such as Gardner's multiple intelligence, school-wide enrichment, and promoting creativity and critical thinking skills. That concludes my media clip project for students with exceptionalities for this fall 2019 semester. Thank you very much.